and you're listening to ArtSpeak Radio. This is Maria Vasquez Boyd, and I'm here till 1 o'clock from noon to 1 on 90.1 FM KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. I'm a little breathless. You know, we wear our masks behind the mics, keeping everyone safe. And I hope you are too, although you're not behind the mics. It's all good. Next up, we have artist Patrick Duegaw, and we're going to talk about the work that's currently on exhibition at the Leedy-Voulkos Art Center at 2012 Baltimore Avenue. His work, The Trials of the Golden Rat, is featured there currently. And I want to say hello to Patrick. Hello, Patrick.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Good. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah.
Maria, thank you so much for having me on the show.
You bet. You bet. I just love what I've read about your work, and I don't always get the opportunity to reach out to everyone, and sometimes it's last minute, but I definitely wanted to have you on. Your exhibition is called The Trials of the Golden Rat, and I want to tell our listeners that with this exhibition, Patrick has enlisted a childhood game, 5 lines where random scribbles are drawn on a blank page to become the inventive jumping off point. Part cloud busting, part Rorschach's test? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Rorschach? Yeah.
This version of the game explores the power of drawing and intent as interpreted through the epic poem, The 12 Labors of Hercules. Wow. So let's talk about the work and how it came about.
Well, actually, so I had just completed an exhibition at the Ulrich Museum, and in that exhibition I showed 9 by 9 foot paintings, and it took several years, actually over the course of 2 decades, to kind of complete that show. And I kind of jump around. I get excited about something over here, and then and meanwhile I just had this show, and I was kind of exhausted from working so huge, and I decided I wanted to be more mobile, work smaller, and so I just started this just a bunch of drawing. And when I was a kid, my mother used to play that game with me, which is you basically, she would scribble 5 lines on a blank page and then have me try to make something from those lines. And it kept for hours. And anyway, it made its mark on me. And even from the beginning of my art career on through now, obviously, it helps me to stir up ideas. So if I have a blank canvas, or if I'm starting a project, I'll sort of do this basic idea of scribbling 5 lines, or starting with a jumble of things that kind of create an image in my mind that I can work from. And so what I did with these drawings, I started out, with no idea that it would turn out to be such a big project. I was basically just doing exercises. And so it eventually grew into this project. And as I was doing these drawings, and they were consistently figurative, consistently these animal-human hybrids would come about, and I saw a narrative thread happening, and it occurred to me that the majority of the drawings that I had completed at this point, when this dawned on me, I was telling the story of Hercules, and each one of these images that I chose for this particular exhibition represents a labor of Hercules, which usually entailed stealing something, killing something, capturing something. And in the idea behind this, all of these images, the 13 primary images for the show, and there are other images that are involved in the exhibition, I had to start with the random 5 lines. And the way I did the 5 lines for myself is I used my non-dominant hand. I'm a righty, and so I used my left hand, and I closed my eyes, and I would just scratch 5 lines on a blank page, and then I would just start drawing. And I would save those original 5 lines I would trace them off so I knew where I started. And so every drawing had to start with that. And eventually I had to, it had to be a labor of Hercules. It had to be in a similar vein, animal-human hybrid, figurative. And, it also had to be poignant today, sort of reflect our current political situation, our current global situation, and so each one is there's many layers to this thing. And then I worked with printmaker Aaron Ships in Kansas City at Bedrock Editions, and he's awesome. I've worked with him before when he was working with Mike Sims over at Lawrence Lithography Workshop, and I just love the experience of working with Mike and with Aaron. And so Aaron and I kind of worked on this together. He was my he was my printmaker, and so he worked tirelessly to help me create these images. And that's how the whole show sort of came about. And along with those images, there are some original drawings that didn't make the cut as far as it being part of the narrative of the 12 labors, but felt at home in this show. And then I also took some of these drawings and created sort of installation pieces with using light boxes, and so these are fairly large images that kind of carry people through the exhibition.
I love it. It's really interesting how 5 lines, beginning with 5 lines, can take you to this place where it's just opened up so much possibilities for you. And I love that you have the freedom that kind of liberates your mind to open up and just kind of absorb what it is that you want to put down on paper. This work is it was at the Leedy-Voulkos through January 30th, so you still have time to take a look. And that's at Leedy-Voulkos Art Center, 2012 Baltimore Avenue. The Trials of the Golden Rat. I love it.
Thanks.
So it's lithographs and illuminated drawings and ink drawings, right?
Exactly, and I call them illuminated drawings. They're backlit line drawings, and I love the idea of seeing raw drawing that large. I mean, drawing seems to have sort of dropped off. I haven't seen a lot of drawing that has inspired me, and I've always loved drawing. It's the roots of my art practice, and to see it that big and that immediate is it was kind of exciting to kind of see it in this form. I wanted to say too regarding the 5 lines. I mentioned this another time somewhere else that the 5 lines for me. When you start off with a blank canvas, it can be a bit daunting, and which is why a lot of my work I start with substrate. For example, like I also do these paintings on sheetrock where I take old pieces of sheetrock that have been painted or drawn on and create this sort of I don't want to say montage, but like a pattern, and then I'll paint over the top of that, and I use this example too when I love to cook, and sometimes trying to come up with something to cook when you can choose from anything you want, and in these days during the pandemic, we're limited, and I think that limitation can be a huge creative jolt. So, for example, my wife and I spent a lot of time in Montreal. She's Canadian, and they have something they call a tuski, which is essentially a meal made from just junk you have in your pantry or in your fridge. So you look at what you have and you say, I've got some old pasta and I've got some some of this and some of that, and you throw it together. And sometimes those are the best meals. And in a way, that's how I view my art making.
I love that. I love that. I mean, it makes so much sense. It's really about being resourceful. And I mean, you can go out and look for other elements to bring into it, but this is kind of the foundation of it, right? Whether it's
exactly.
a meal or
and
art.
Years ago, I'm a co-founder of an art organization here in Wichita called Fish House, and we've been around since 1990. And 3 buddies of mine and I bought a warehouse down here for pennies. None of us had any money, but we lucked into this warehouse. I mean, it had nothing, no water, no running water, hardly any electricity. And we moved in and set up shop. And being artists, full-time artists, we had very little in the way of monetary resources. So that pushed us to be way more resourceful in creating our own spaces and the things that we use to make our work. And to me, it's, in Canada, the meal is called a two-ski, and here, it's the Fish House style. It's like you've got next to nothing, you've got a pile of junk. What can we do with that? And we've built off of that. Everything we've done has been built off of that sort of philosophy.
I like that. I really like that. If you just tuned in, I'm talking to Patrick Duegaw. We're talking about the work, The Trials of the Golden Rat, now currently at Leedy-Voulkos Art Center at 2012 Baltimore through January 30th. And for more information, Leedy-Voulkos.com is the website, and PatrickDuegaw.com for Patrick's artist site. And really beautiful work there. Just looking around and looking at the different works and all the awards and all that. Still have time to see The Trials of the Golden Rat. And are you on other social media platforms, Patrick?
Yes, I'm on Instagram as P. Duegaw, and I have a Facebook page as well, and there's Fish House Facebook page and website as well. Now,
from this work, because it's so wow, it just opens up a whole realm of possibilities. Is this finished, or is there a part 2 to this? Because of when you talk about about Hercules and the work and all that, is there a sort of a continuum of this work that you might go into after this show?
It very well could happen. I have a lot of projects that are brewing. Frankly, Maria, most of my projects come about by me procrastinating the other projects I need to do. And this show at Leedy-Voulkos was one giant piece of procrastination. After my show at the Ulrich, I had some portraits lined up that I had been working on that I'd been wanting to do, and some other things. And I was essentially just not wasting time. Procrastination is amazing.
Yeah.
It makes me so productive. But it's weird. You have to kind of train your brain to accept it and not feel guilty about it. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same way with the 5 lines. Again, sort of embracing that. It's like, meh, this is what it is.
Exactly.
Are you? And so you're still with Fish House or the collective?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the group, we're all still together and hanging out and doing stuff. I'm currently the only one living in the building with my wife Elizabeth Stevenson, and also an artist and architect. And one of my, in fact, I was just going to say I'm having a show with Connie Ernat, the wife of one of my partners. They have an amazing studio space, diver studio, just our original Fish House, which is a block north of our on our street above Fish House. And Connie and I, we came up with this fun sort of it's called Pandemonia. It's a show that we put together essentially because of the pandemic. She had been working on some work. She's an amazing sculptor. She and John had a show at Leedy-Voulkos I think a year ago, or maybe even a year and a half ago. An amazing show, and but we're real close, and we had been talking about trying to figure out what to do, and she had some sort of, projects that were smaller, maybe not fitting in a direct group of work, and I had some sort of nothing that was big enough to have a Leedy-Voulkos show about, and I had built this small gallery in Fish House called Build Lab, and it's kind of an incubator space, more intimate space than the Fish House main gallery. So I could kind of host smaller shows, little ideas that will hopefully eventually become big ideas. And I currently have all the imagery from that show on my Instagram account, as well as my Facebook page. And Connie Ernat's, she's Ernat Bronze is her Instagram account, and you can see all of her work there. And she's quite fabulous.
I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything that you want to mention before we take a break?
Well, just the fact that I love Leedy-Voulkos. I love Aaron and Stephanie there.
Absolutely, I hear you.
And they're amazing people, and I've been showing there for years, and it's always a treat. And thank you for having me on the show. I want to say I love the intro music.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing, and I love the
Golf.
show.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to invite you back sometime. I'll send you an email and that when I talk some more at length and find out more about Fish House. But for now, I want to thank you so much for calling in and talking with us, Patrick. And
thank you.
We will be in contact soon.